All right, I'm here with the new head coach of UMass men's basketball, Frank Martin. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I've heard you mention a couple times, this is previously even at South Carolina, that, you don't play the opponent. You kind of play the game through your personality. What do you want the personality to be at UMass, not just this year, but moving forward under, under yourself, under Coach Martin?
Oh, man. Toughness, passion, family. Those are words that I kind of live my life by. And if you go through back to my high school days, and you ask anybody that's either played against us or just observe my team's play, I would say those are the words that probably connect with my team. With the way we play. It's who I am. It's you got all these, I don't think coaches ever say this. It's people that don't coach, and I don't say it negatively, but they've come up with this phrase that, a team reflects the personality of a coach, on good teams, that is. And I'm not saying that my teams are good, but I do think that my personality comes through with the way my teams play.
Yeah. Definitely. And, looking at your roster, obviously your first year, you got some great guys I want to talk about, obviously, that you didn't necessarily recruit that are there, in Weeks and Fernandez. And obviously you brought in a lot of people as well. I look at one thing, especially, kind of your front court depth, the size that you guys have. How do you think or how do you plan on kind of utilizing that depth? Depth is a good thing. It also, there's only a certain amount of minutes as well, without getting into, who's playing, who's not. But how do you think you can utilize that size in the front court, especially in A10 play?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of size. I think size creates great habit building in practice before you ever get the games, because guys get used to having to pass and shoot over size. And the last thing you want to do is be introduced to size in a game. And if you go through and you look at all the teams that consistently make runs, the one thing they all possess is size. And so if you're going to prepare your team to beat those kind of teams, you got to get used to playing against size. And I sounded really bad with that answer. That's like the most repetitive. I kept saying size like over and over and over again.
It's important. You guys have size.
Yeah, and then from a depth standpoint, to be able to just keep throwing bodies on people, and it gets back to that passion and physicality that we were talking about earlier. We're gonna screen people. I'm still old-fashioned, if you'd like to say. In our approach, we don't kind of play all that spread ball screen stuff. We're going to go hit people. We're going to screen, and we're going to go after rebounds, and we're going to really, really work at defending the rim and creating a presence there. And it's what I believe in, and it's how our teams play.
Definitely. And I think too, once you get to conference play, we're a long way away from that. But, especially in the Atlantic 10, I've been, watching, following the Atlantic 10 for my whole life. Similar to the Big East, the court gets smaller, and it's hard to score, and size and depth like that's obviously only going to help. Outside of the front court, I did want to talk about, Weeks, also Fernandez, two guys that obviously you didn't recruit, that you inherit. What has impressed you most about just kind of seeing them in the off season, early on in practice, in terms of their ability as basketball players?
Yeah, Noah's a point guard. It's we live in an era where point guards are guys that handle the ball and score a lot, and Noah can do that, but he's also a throwback for getting you an offense and getting guys shots, and very competitive, which is one of the things that I enjoy the most about him. And then TJ. TJ battled an ankle injury for the last couple of years, and which I think led to some of his inconsistencies with his play. But you're talking about a guy who had 30 in an Atlantic 10 game. You don't do that by mistake. I mean, he had an ankle procedure done this summer. He feels a lot better. He's gotten himself in shape again. It's hard to stay in shape when you have surgery to your lower extremities, and he's actually practiced really, really well here in our first week. So I'm excited to have two guys like them that were already in place and have their competitiveness and their talent.
Definitely. And, obviously outside of the guys that are there, you coming in, I think correct me if I'm wrong, 6 or 7 transfers. I know a couple from South Carolina, outside of the guys in South Carolina that obviously well from your time coaching there. With Diggins, Cross, Thompson, how do you feel? I shouldn't say how do you feel? That's a terrible question. Has there been anyone in particular or any, component of their game that has impressed you about those guys? Obviously, you come in, you don't have a lot of time to recruit these transfers. But now that you've gotten to see them play, are there a few things that kind of have impressed you or surprised you in a positive way when it comes to, like I said, maybe Diggins, Cross, or Thompson and their ability?
I'm just starting to get to know them now. It's we all have this deal with summer workouts, and they're awesome. You don't get a feel for guys in summer workouts. You just kind of you're trying to let them understand you, but you don't get a feel for them because if you're doing all kinds of competitive stuff in the summer, I mean, your players are going to lose their minds by January because the season's really long. So in the summer, we do a lot of individual development, a lot of teaching, and the players are kind of getting a feel for me, and I'm getting a feel for how they learn. But start figuring them out now, because now it's really competitive. Everything we do is really competitive. The attention to detail from a team concept. Now people have to start sacrificing because it's no longer about just their individual development. It's about some of the things that now they can't do or have to do to help the team rather than just develop themselves. And so you start really, really getting a feel for them now. But what I tried to do, and I guess you can say I was lucky, all those guys that you mentioned as transfers are guys that had either played for us in South Carolina or guys that we recruited really, really hard coming out of high school. Yeah. So we already have an understanding of who they are, how they play, their personalities. They understood us. So it doesn't make recruiting easier. It just means that we were able to get to that finish line a little quicker from a recruiting standpoint. And I'm excited that they're here. Now with all that said, it's a lot of new guys, man. And getting to understand them and coach them for the first time and go through the fire with them for the first time. There's going to be a whole lot of learning and it's going to require a lot of patience for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You said even about recruiting, and we don't get into this. This could be a whole other conversation about, especially with the transfer portal, and I don't care about people's thoughts. It's here. Obviously you've adapted. Coaches have to adapt to be successful. But I do find it interesting, a lot of guys that maybe you don't get out of high school. I feel like with the transfer portal, still establishing those relationships, sometimes that can help you down the road if they're looking to, switch schools to kind of keep those relationships going. But
yeah, I mean, when you recruit kids, if you don't get them and you act sour grapes and just like get mad and hang up the phone on them, what kind of recruiting is that? Recruiting should be relationship building, and whether we get a guy or not, it's we sign up for the job and we're going to get told no a lot more than we get told yes. So we can't act like spoiled brats when kids make decisions to go to different places. So you got to handle those moments with respect. They're young people, man, and they make decisions. It doesn't mean that their decision has to be right for us. So with that said, I think we try to handle recruiting in a manner where it's still old-fashioned relationship building. And I'm not saying other people don't. I speak about us. And because we do it that way, I stay, when they decide to transfer, there's a certain level of comfort and respect that's still there. And it's always been that way with me. I stay in touch with numerous players that I recruited that I never got to coach because they went to other places. And I still enjoy the recruiting from a relationship building standpoint. You meet people. There's other recruits that 5 conversations in, I'm like, I never want to speak with him again. And I'm sure they don't want to speak to me either. So it's that's part of the deal.
Definitely. And, in regards to recruiting, kind of moving forward with you now being at UMass, how much outside of the relationship building, outside of, connecting them with what you plan to do, not just with them, but the team moving forward, how much does the tradition of UMass, how much can that play in the, play into the recruiting sense? I talked to Camby, I talked to Chaz Williams last week. Obviously, they're invigorated with your hire. But how much can you utilize that, not just to your advantage, but to discuss, like, there's something here that we can bring back and you can build upon the legacy of UMass basketball?
We've got things in place on this campus from a structural standpoint. Our Champion Center, the John F. Kennedy Champion Center, there's a lot of Power 5 schools that don't have a facility like this to practice in and have their athletes in on a daily basis. We've got an unbelievable campus. We've got academically, our university over the last 10 years has made unbelievable strides under our present chancellor, who's actually in his last year. As far as where we're at, I think it's 26 in the country overall for public universities from an academic standpoint across the board. It's everything we need is in place. We've got the history, whether it's a Travieso, Padilla, Camby, Lou Rowe, keep going on and even some of the Chaz Williamses of the world that obviously play for Derek Kellogg and there's a lot of really, really good players that have played here. And let's not even go back to Dr. J, because that name's pretty good. And that's I actually basketball. He's the one that attracted me to basketball back in the day. So I share all that with you because there's no reason why we can't figure it. There's no guarantee that we can create that magic again, but there's no reason why we can't aspire and fight and work to make it happen, because it's happened before. We got what we need. We've got administration's awesome. They're in it with us. They live it with us. They're around all the time, just making sure that we got what we need. Now we got to do our part as coaches. It's our job to lead. My high school coach told me back in 1985 when he hired me, he said, Frank, I don't care what sport, I don't care what level. Always remember this: the most important person in the room is the head coach. And that's the way it is in every sport organization at any level. And so it starts with me. I've got to handle my business. I've got to do my job. I've got to lead and then trust in the people around me, my staff, my players, to then take charge and for lack of better words, take the bulls by the horns and let's go be great, man. Let's aspire to be great. Let's be fearless to be great. And let's take a chance. We came this close at K-State to winning the Big 12 and made, some great runs in postseason play. And we went to South Carolina and we came this close to winning the SEC and winning the whole thing. And so it's I don't get out of bed worried about failure. I get out of bed and I aspire to be great, and I'm willing to fight and claw and do whatever I need to do to get there. And I'm my players tend to respect that, and for the most part, I don't expect it to be any differently here.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'm ready, coach. Give me a UMass jersey. I'm good for 5 personal fouls.
I don't like cheap fouls like hand checks, but I like physical fouls. So if you got 5 of those, man, I'm in.
Absolutely. And just kind of last question, looking at your non-conference schedule, I feel like there's actually a couple really great opportunities. I've probably, you can speak on this more, but in terms of opportunities to grow as a new team, especially when it comes to North Texas, Townsend, 2 teams, very experienced, may not have that name brand. I just actually yesterday talked to Coach Scary, who's such a great guy, obviously. But, what do you think those games and just the schedule in general, how that can prepare you guys going into conference play, especially, maybe with those 2 teams, because like I said, they're experienced. They've been playing together for a long time and been successful.
Yeah, and add to that Hofstra in New
Austria.
York, and
Yeah.
it's we've got some really hard games, and then go to Myrtle Beach and you play Colorado. Tad Boyle, one of the best coaches in the country, and he's always got Colorado right in the mix for that top 3-4 spots in the Pac-12, and and then who knows after that who we end up playing, but it's either Tulsa or Texas A&M, two programs that Buzz Williams is a dear friend.
Yeah.
And I know Tulsa has a new head coach, and Erickson will do a great job there. But Tulsa is also one of the programs that consistently wins over the years. So we're going to have some great opportunities to challenge our team. But make no mistake about it, we're in an unbelievably good basketball conference. The top 5-6 teams in this league are always right in the middle of this whole thing to get NCAA bids. We're a multi-bid league, which means that our teams are good enough to make a run and go win. Just pay attention to Dayton last year, who beat Kansas, and the 2 years earlier, Dayton's number 1 in the country, and just keep going on down the line. You and I were talking off air about the successes that a lot of the leagues have 1 or 2 programs that make runs. Think about how many teams in this league have made a run over the last 15, 20 years. And that's a credit to the different teams and the strength of the basketball in this conference. And so those games that we're playing in non-league play is going to harden our team. It's going to prepare us because it's all about your league. We have to be good enough to compete in the A-10. And playing teams like those in non-conference play gives you a chance to be prepared for the kind of basketball we have to play in our league.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I know many people, not just UMass fans, are excited just about you being in the A-10. Like you said, I think it's a great conference. There's been great coaches. You're a big part of that. But it's definitely, I'm really looking forward to UMass basketball getting back on the map, and I appreciate your time greatly.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you covering our league and giving us a chance to be a part of the conversations. And I think this league's in for a great year. I just hope that we can get good fast enough to be in the conversation. We're going to fight for it, but it's a lot of really good teams in this league and incredible coaches. And I just hope some of the things go our way so we can figure out a way to be in the middle of it at the end.
Absolutely. All right. Well, have a good week, Coach. Thank you again.
Appreciate you.